Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's Kai, and today I have for you this super fun 3D Cinnamoroll set. I'd been wanting to get back into 3D nail art, and I was lucky enough to receive the MPA Mochi gels as PR. No obligation to say anything specific, they just asked if I could feature them on the channel. And of course I said yes because I love my MPA art palette, the painting gels, and so I wanted to give this new product a try, and I thought it would be perfect for this character design that I've had in my head for a while. It is Cinnamoroll, but hot springs inspired. Think like Japanese onsen. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you are already subscribed, I appreciate you being here. If you are not, please consider doing so if you like nail art and nail hauls, but let's get into the video. So here is the design I came up with and my design board. This is actually a template that I made myself in Canva. I do have all of the links to it available if anyone wants to download it. If you have a Canva account, I believe you just have to make your own copy of the design and do with it what you would like. Let me show you what it looks like without all of the layers. So yeah, this is what it looks like. I only ask that if you do decide to use it, that if somebody asks you, where you got it, maybe you mention my channel if they'd like to check out my nail art. But yes, I have really liked as of late drawing out my designs, having my inspiration all in one place. It just helps me with planning and hopefully making less changes when I'm actually painting the nails. So here is what I have. The main inspiration for this design was actually these two pictures here. So this one here of the little Cinnamoroll, and then this one here of him laying face down in the water. These are actually from a mini sew drop that came out recently. It has all of the sanrio characters in like an onsen setting, and so I wanted to take that as the main inspiration. I'm also going to be using the MPA Mochi gels like I mentioned earlier, because I thought they would be perfect for this sort of 3D character art. I recently also got the blueberry milk base from Nail Thoughts, and I'm super excited to try out for this look. I think it's the perfect color to complement Cinnamoroll. So here is the design that I came up with. I want to do like some ombre nails with some Sakura petals and leaves and some like water lines. And then for the middle finger, I'll have that Cinnamoroll face down in the water with some watermarks, some ripples. I wanted to play around with some 3D textures. And then I thought I would do maybe like some sparkly nails for the thumb and the ring finger and do more of the 3D Cinnamoroll characters on top. This one here is super adorable. It's like Cinnamoroll with the ears tied up. Here I thought maybe I could just do like a little Cinnamoroll with a towel over him. Use the flocking powder to make it that fuzzy. But yeah, that's what I have so far. I'm using this as reference for the Cinnamoroll lying down. This is a custom keycap from, I believe it's Lollycaps on Instagram. And then here's the other inspo picture I have for Cinnamoroll with a little headband on. And yeah, I just find it's been a lot easier to do my nails when I have something at least drawn out, so I have a better idea, a better picture in my head of what I'm going for when I start a set. Okay, so that is the inspiration, and now it is time to actually get to work. I will pull out all of the products that I will be using and go over those, and then we'll get into the design. So I'm trying things a little bit differently, and I thought I would pull out all of the products beforehand to show you what you need. I have a couple different types of sequins, these Sakura petal sequins, along with these ginkgo leaf sequins that I think will be really cute. I'll try to find the link for them and the Sakura leaves, but I'm pretty sure I got them off of AliExpress a while ago. I also got this off of Ali. It's just a Sakura mold for doing your own custom charms. I was sort of at this point just pulling out anything that I thought I would be using for the set. So some of the things I'm going to show you don't actually end up making it, but this was my thought process behind it. These sequins are one. I thought I was going to do some glittery nails, so I pulled out this chunky blue glitter mix along with this gorgeous glitter polish from Yogurt Gel. I believe it's from their In the Mood for Love collection. I'll have all the product names up in the corner. And the star of the show is the Nail Thoughts Blueberry Milk. It is a gorgeous icy sheer blue that I thought would be perfect for like a watery Cinnamoroll look. And then to top off the matte portions that I have planned, I'm just using the Yogurt Gel Korea Cotton Matte Top Coat. It is one of my favorite matte top coats, just for like a standard matte finish. And for another product that I really love but didn't end up using, this is the Doughy Nudie White. It is a gorgeous milky white shade, and I thought I would use it in the water, but I just ended up not needing it. And for the last of the polishes, this is the Mayo Peach Peach Collection number 7. It is just like this really nice deep pink, this rosy syrup gel that I think is perfect for doing like the little blush marks on character cheeks. And I guess I forgot to show earlier, but this is the Ivy Fix Gel. It's just a tubed gel glue. I do like it, though it does have a little bit of a spillage problem. This next product is one of my ride or dies. It is the MPA art palette, and it just comes with such a nice variety of different colored painting gels. I also really like the D-gel painting gels, and they are, I will say, slightly more pigmented, but you don't get the same variety of color. So these are just convenient in that way. My other favorite products are the Crazy Top Thick and Standard from Jin B. I will be using both to create some 3D textures for this design. And then for the general top coat that I'll be using, I have the Divock Enamel Top. I really like it. It's a thicker consistency, which is my personal preference, and also I needed it for the set. And I just know that I will have some texture with the set, especially since I'm going to be trying to embed some rather large sequins. And then for some of the 3D art, I am going to be using the Yogo Milk Jam, just for some of the larger parts because I have the Mochi gels for the other parts. Speaking of which, this is the packaging. I did do a short swatch of these because they have the cutest swatch card I've ever seen. It has little spoons that you can add the gel to, so you have kind of like this 3D swatching experience. Hands down, one of the cutest collections I've ever opened, and I'm excited to play around with them. So here are all of the materials I'm using aside from tools. Let me know if you like this format, if you like seeing everything up front, if that's helpful. And let's get on to the design. So to start with tips, I am using my Apres Natural Round Medium tips. I do like Apres as a tip brand. I think they're really good with keeping their sizes between the different shapes pretty consistent. Please ignore my nails right now. I know they're looking rough. What happened was I was trying the Yogo Zombie Peel Off Base Gel, and before putting it on, I had fully prepped my nails and it just stayed way too easily. I ended up kind of like picking it off a little bit in a way that I know very well I shouldn't have. Another thing I wish about Apres was that it just had a slight bit of a C curve to it. Not even a C curve, sorry, like an apex, because my nails do curve downward, especially if they are grown out, they will start curving. And so when I'm doing press-ons, sometimes they'll stick out from the bottom. So I wish Apres had like something between the unsculpted and the natural nails. That would be perfect for me, but alas, I'm still in the search for the exact nail tips that fit my nail. I know that I could sculpt my own nails, and a lot of the time I do have like a gel overlay on my nails, but a lot of the times I just don't have the time, or I want to do a more complex set that involves painting off of my hand. So now that I have all of my tips sized out, I'm going to attach them to my stands. To attach them, I'm actually using the Albacol's Caramel Tip Gel. And at first I wasn't really sure if I liked how it worked, but I figured out the trick is to cure it for 30 seconds only and then wipe it down with alcohol right before using it every time, and it sticks really well. I can get like 5 sets out of one application because it has a really nice hold to it. So yeah, I do like this stuff. Just make sure that you're rubbing it with that alcohol and that you try to avoid over curing it. But it makes it really nice for filing down the free edge because sometimes there's that little plastic notch that you need to get rid of at the end of a press-on. And I have no problems with filing on these nail stands with the Albacol's gel attached. It just has a really nice sticking power if used correctly. Speaking of using correctly, please make sure that you are doing your research on any products that you are going to be putting on your nail. This hobby, and I wish someone had told me sooner to be careful. Avoid contact with uncured gel as much as possible. So here's my disclaimer for you all. Related to that, I do use the Apres system for prep. This is the Gel X Tip Prep, which I just recently found out has HEMA in it, but you still should be fine to use it. taking the necessary precautions and not getting it on your bare skin too often. I like using the prep because I hate the mess that comes with filing things down. You really just want to scrub until you see the brush strokes starting to stick to the nail surface. That's the prep doing its job and adhering to the nail tip. I make sure to go around the edges really well because if you're going to get lifting with press-ons, it's probably going to be around the perimeter of the nail. And once they are all prepped and ready to go, I will start with the base colors. So as I mentioned, this is Blueberry Milk from Nail Thoughts. Now, last time I did a haul video, I included some swatches from the 4th set, and I was so surprised when the creator left a comment on my YouTube video. She was so sweet, and I had no idea that she actually watched content that features her brand. So that was a pleasant surprise. She also called me a YouTuber, which I still don't necessarily see myself as being big enough to be classified as a YouTuber, but I appreciated the compliment nonetheless. Now, since this color is more of a jelly polish, a really sheer blue, I am doing about 4 coats on each nail. The thumb, the middle finger, and the ring finger are all getting just 4 coats of polish all over the nail. And then the pointer and the pinky finger I will do in alternating ombres. So here I'm just laying down one thinnish layer, and then to actually do the ombre, and then to thin it out, I'm using my favorite new ombre brush. This is the Nail Bio or Doughy ombre brush. And the bristles are just nice and long so that they don't bump together too much and you do get that feathered look. Because this polish is so sheer, it's really easy to build up an ombre with it. And speaking of which, I actually forgot that I was doing an ombre on this nail and painted over the whole thing. But again, luckily that is more on the sheer side because you could still see through pretty well. And for the other 2 coats, I just concentrated them again on the back portion of the nail, curing in between and using that Nail Bio brush to feather out the ombre. And here I'm just adding a little bit more gel on the back end to deepen that color, making sure to smooth away most of the excess around the edges for a slim profile. And then the middle finger and ring fingers are just, again, 4 coats of this Blueberry Milk. It is such a dreamy color, and it applied right over my prepped nails because this is a tinted base, which saves me a layer and a step. And I honestly just can't wait to try out more Nail Thoughts. If you have a favorite color, put it in the comments below because I definitely like to check out more from the brand. Also, I heard that if you purchase directly from the Nail Thoughts website, maybe even from Cocoist, they are a bit cheaper than they are on Sweetie Nail Supply, so that might be a good option to check out. Here I'm just making sure to wipe along the edges right before I cure. That way, if I have any sort of pooling, it gets wiped away before I solidify it in the lamp. And because of the way that my nails are sized, I already have to size up, and so I don't want these to look too bulky, which they can if you put on a thick layer of polish and you don't wipe it away from the edges. You'll start getting pooling and a wider nail. So I hope everyone is having a lovely 2025 so far. I know there's still a lot going on that's not exactly the most positive. I will add the same link I had in my last video for hunger relief for the fires in California. And then you've got the whole TikTok ban going on, the whole situation with PayPal, which I don't know if you heard about that, but PayPal owns the browser extension Honey, which is supposed to find you discount codes. And I guess they've just been regularly stealing hundreds of thousands, millions, maybe even billions of dollars from content creators by taking their affiliate sales. So yeah. And there's the whole ban on TikTok, which unfortunately has affected me in a way that I did not anticipate because CapCut is owned by ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok. It is what I edit my videos on currently. Though I would like to learn a new program, I just don't have time at the moment, so I did have to get a VPN. So yeah, 2025 has been interesting so far, to say the least. But now I am done with base coloring all of the nails, so I will move on to the 3D artwork. To begin, I'm going to be using Yogo's Milk Jam just to make Cinnamoroll's head. I could definitely use the Mochi gel. It's just that with the Mochi gel, it is recommended that you work in thinner layers to make sure that you are curing the product all the way through. So for this more thicker portion of Cinnamoroll, I'm going to use the Milk Jam, and then I'll show you how the Mochi gels work. I find that they're really nice for doing character art that is a little bit more subtle, closer to the nail because they do require those thinner layers. However, you can layer them to get a pretty nice 3D effect. But once I'm done with the shape of the head, I will stick that in my full-size lamp to cure for a minute. And now to show you the texture of these mochi gels, the only way I can really describe them is think of like polygel, but slightly looser. I guess not slightly, it is quite a bit more loose. You can still get that definition, but it will self-level and become somewhat smooth. So I would not recommend it for like textured nail art, but this sort of thing, like the little ears here, it worked perfectly. There is a little bit of a learning curve to it, I will say, because I had to redo the ear a couple times, just not happy with the general shape, but that was more I need practice with this. The one thing I can recommend if you get these is just to use a bigger brush. I think I was using one that was a little bit too small with this skinny liner here, so keep that in mind. Here I'm just going over with another layer of that gel to really amp up the 3D effect of the ears. This is after the ears have been cured, by the way. If you're doing a second layer, you want to do it after everything's been cured. And just a bit of a warning, I did notice that the white color did have a little bit of yellowing because I was sticking the hand, the fingernail, in and out of the lamp multiple times. I think if you used maybe like a low heat mode or tried to stick the gel at the very end, you could avoid some of that yellowing. It's just because this polish was sat right next to another white that doesn't yellow whatsoever, so it just made the contrast a little bit more clear. Regardless, I was super happy with how Cinnamoroll was turning out so far, and then I added his little body with a little bit of that mochi gel. Looking back on it, I think I should have left it to one layer since he's supposed to be kind of like partly submerged in the water. But I did end up going back and adding a second coat, making sure I was curing completely in between, because unlike some other 3D gels, this dries hard or it cures hard, so it's hard to tell from touch if it is fully cured or not, which actually I really like and used my advantage later on in the set. But for now, I'm just adding little dots where his feet would be. His hands, I actually forgot to film, but I did the same process as the feet and just attached it to the front this time where his cheeks are to make it look like he's resting on them. And now I have to give him his little hat. One other thing I do recommend about these mochi gels is that you do give them a good stir. I was noticing like a little bit of separation, so just make sure you stir them before use. My Cinnamoroll is all cured, and now I'm just adding his little hat. I'm not even sure if that's what you'd call it, but in the inspiration pictures that I'm using of the different sanrio characters, they all have like this little cap on. If anybody knows, let me know down in the comments what it is. I couldn't recreate it exactly, so I did kind of a hybrid between the two featured in the collection. And I pulled out the milk jam again because I had wanted to originally do like a 3D swirl tail. It just gave me so much trouble. I could not get it to work. Using the mochi gel was not an option because it was a little bit too loose. I also tried like an embossing gel and that looked horrible, so my end decision was just to make a little bump and then paint on the iconic swirl for Cinnamoroll's tail. And now that the 3D elements are done for that nail, we can move on to the ring finger. So originally in the design, you might have noticed that I had different Cinnamorolls, one under a towel and another with like a headband on. As I was doing this design, I just felt like it didn't quite fit with the aesthetic that I had built so far. So instead I opted for like a little floating Cinnamoroll where you could only see like parts of his face, the tips of his ears. I just thought that idea was super cute, and so the mochi gels were actually perfect for this look because they gave you that really shallow 3D effect that I was looking for to indicate Cinnamoroll floating in water. At this point, I feel like I was kind of getting the hang of things. You really want to work in like long, smooth motions to shape the gel. I just made his face here in an oval shape. Now, some of these parts might look out of order, like here I am doing his little stomach sticking up out of the water. I do show you the ears after I just ended up redoing some parts. Since this is my first time using this gel, there was a bit of a learning curve, but at this point I feel pretty comfortable with it and I am excited to try out some other looks with it. But once I fully cure all of the parts that I've laid down, it's time to go in and paint some details. So I used my MPA palette to paint on his face, do his little mouth. This is probably the hardest part, even though it's only 3 shapes, just his mouth and his 2 eyes. I think if you have the placement off at all, it ends up looking pretty significantly different. And I forgot to record the details of me painting the other face because I am working without a monitor right now, so I can't always see what I'm doing. But I painted his other face, and now I'm moving on to the middle finger art. So for this finger, I wanted to take inspiration from the figurine of him holding like the little fan. So I'm starting with the Mochi gel in white and just painting out the basic fan shape. I'm then going to take another palette. You could just use any sort of shiny plastic for this. And then you flatten out the gel between the 2 sheets. And then once you cure it, you have a nice solid flat surface to work on. I think I saw this technique from an artist that I follow who does nail art, but also sculptures using like clay and things like that. I believe her tag on IG is BNU. I'm not sure, I will make sure to put it up in the corner, but she does this for large flat discs, which I think is genius because then you get a perfectly smooth, perfectly flat surface. And now I'm just taking a file and filing down the edges to get the overall shape that I want. My mom actually used to have one of these fans, and it was more of like a genuine one that had a hand-painted design and everything on it. So I wanted to capture that essence by painting on some flowers and some leaves to match with the theme. Shout out to the intruder that is my hair. I'm sorry, I was working at a slightly different angle that I'm used to for this video, trying to get you some closer shots. But that did mean I was occasionally leaning into the frame, which is why some of the footage is unfortunately missing. I was thinking that I wanted to do more of this like real-time footage. So most of the time my videos are sped up to like 2 or even sometimes as close to 3 times the speed. And I wanted to experiment with this video, keeping the speed relatively close to real life. So this is all in 1.4 times speed. And just doing like shorter shots of the process. That way you can see the steps, but you aren't having to watch like really jerky movements. I don't know, let me know what you all think of the new editing style. It did take me significantly longer, I think just because I'm used to kind of like speeding up the footage and just letting it roll with minimal edits. So yes, this workflow will take a little while to get used to, but I'm thinking I like the results. I just need to set up a monitor of some sort so I can make sure I'm always in frame. But yes, 2025 is a year of growth for me, so I do want to experiment, like I said, with just some different filming techniques and continue growing in terms of the style and content of my videos. So back to the nail art, I've matte top coated the fan, and now I'm going in with the Cocoa's non-wipe accessory bond. I wanted a white, thick, like embossing gel that was non-wipe, that's usually either embedded in the fan or it's on one of the sides. I thought this detail just really helped pull the look together and helped convey the actual shape that I was going for, otherwise it looked like just a random disc. In the future, I would probably consider using like a foil pattern on the front of the fan just because it is such a nice smooth surface. That will save some time. For the handle, I decided to use a mold I had that had some like straight lines in it with the Mochi gel, trying to build something from scratch. I think there are other solutions that would probably look better. The straight edge that I was working with wasn't thick enough, so I ended up gluing like 2 pieces together, and I think it just kind of looks a little bit messy. But at this point in the set, I believe it was like 3 a.m. and I just needed to get it finished. It was Friday night. I try to finish my sets on Friday, do all of the like B-roll, intros, outros, editing and stuff on Saturday, so that I can upload on Sunday. I think at this point I've spent probably like 20 hours working on it. In fact, I am currently recording the last bit of the voiceover and doing final edits at about 12 p.m. on Sunday. Sometimes I get comments about how consistent I'm able to be, and honestly, it's just because I'm crazy and stubborn and I don't really have much of a life. Now, because I had all of this empty space around the nail, I thought I would paint out the word onsen in Japanese characters. Now, I have not learned how to write in Japanese, so this probably looks awful to people who are native learners, who know how to write in kanji, but I did really like the results of my first attempt. However, I hated the placement, and so I had to redo the whole thing. I think I redid it twice actually, so a total of 3 times, and it probably took me about an hour just for that. And then I felt like I needed to hide the connection point between the fan and the handle, and so I pulled out that 3D mold and I used the Mochi gel to create like a little Sakura flower. I cured this fully and then just glued it to that connection point, and I think it did a good job of hiding the mess that was where those two things connected. When in doubt, cover your mistakes with charms. You can hide a lot that way, and then you don't have to feel the need to be perfect. I am working on my perfectionism because I think if I had less of it, then these designs would take me a lot less time. Here I'm just using that same liner gel. This is the white from the MPA art palette, to paint some Sakuras on the other side of the fan, just to fill up that empty space. At this point, you might have noticed that my pattern has drastically deviated from what I originally planned, and that just tends to happen. I realized I didn't want to throw in the flocking powder. It just really didn't fit with the set I was going for, and so I opted for a more cutesy but still refined look, and so that's why I went with the fan and the lettering. I also think that the lettering tied in nicely with these white painted swirls that I do here on the pinky and pointer finger. If I do a really 3D heavy set, I often try to keep the pinky and pointer finger a little bit more simple. I would like to eventually try to do like full 10 finger designs. I unfortunately just don't have the time for that at the moment, so keeping the pinky and pointer finger design more of a minimal look helps me with time management, and I also think it helps the other 3D elements stand out a bit more. And I will admit, hand painting these sorts of long flowing swirls is one of my favorite things to do. I don't know, I just personally find it so satisfying and relaxing. This is my favorite long liner brush. It is the Leaf Gel long liner from Zillabue, I think is where I got it. I don't know, I'll leave the link below. It's so flexible and skinny, which means that you can get these gorgeous thin lines. I repeat that process on both the pointer and the pinky finger. The curves I do in opposite directions so that the nails, even though they're the same overall pattern, do look slightly different. They aren't just copy and pasted with the same design. And then I go in with these little sequins. I start with the ginkgo leaves because they're bigger, and I attempt to create sort of a curve with my fingernail here. That way it will sit flat on the nail. I know there is a saran wrap trick where you put the sequin down and then you wrap the entire nail with saran wrap to flatten it. I'll be honest, I was just feeling lazy because again, it was like probably 4 in the morning at this point. So I just used a tool to push it down while flash curing and then moved on to adding the little petals. I'm sticking everything on with that tube ivy gel just because it's super handy having that small application nozzle. Unfortunately, I do have a problem with it spilling into the cap if I store it in something facing down, so please just keep that in mind if you decide to pick it up, which is sad because I do really like the product. It is just a bit of a mess. And here I am just giving this a nice thick top coat using that Divock enamel top because it is a thicker consistency. It just evenly smooths out those bumps from the sequins. And then for the other nails with the 3D elements, I'm topping those with the Jinbei standard top coat on a brush, just so I can more easily control the application, and it's also slightly thinner than that enamel top. Just giving them all a good coat and then curing. This brush, by the way, is the Mayo Square brush, the Pianoa, I think is what it's called. And it is my favorite for potted gels. It is just so soft and it lays that gel on really nicely. And because I thought I needed more 3D, I pulled out my fishing wire and my Crazy Top Thick. Now, I'd use this method to create the potions in my apothecary set. I take a little piece of the fishing wire, I dip it into the gel to create this little droplet shape, letting it kind of pool at the end before curing. I cut off the back end and glued it to the nail so it looked like when you have water splashing into a pond and then you have that like backsplash, sort of like when rain hits the surface and it creates ripples. I think they are a little bit bigger than I would have liked. In the future, I would try to make them smaller, especially considering the size of Cinnamoroll. But I top coat around them just to secure them in place, and then I use that Crazy Thick to just paint on some ripples. I love the Crazy Thick because it is non-wipe. I can put it on as a last step and I don't have to fuss around with top coating it and losing the definition. And then I use that Mochi gel, both the green and the pink, just to make some 3D Sakura petals and leaves to put on the surface of the thumbnail. felt like I had a lot of empty space. I find a silicone spatula does really well at cleaning up the excess on the surface of a mold before curing. In hindsight, I should have done this before I top coated the nail, but oh well. Here I'm just gluing down those charms that I created, and then I top coated it once again before going in with that Jinbi Crazy Thick to add the ripples. I always try to include an element twice in a set, so if I have the ripples on one nail, I will add it to another. If I have Sakura petals on one nail, I'll add it to another. That way everything just feels cohesive. I do want to eventually try to challenge myself to do a design where each finger is completely different and yet everything still feels like it fits together. Maybe once I have more time in the summer, because I anticipate that one's going to take a lot of experimenting. But I was feeling like the pointer and pinky finger were missing some of that 3D texture, and so I just go in and add some simple raindrops on the surface with the Jinbi Crazy Thick. And then I needed to matte top coat all of the Cinnamoroll parts because I wanted him to still look fuzzy. So I painstakingly went in with the liner brush and painted over all of the parts of Cinnamoroll that were exposed above the water. In hindsight, should have used a slightly bigger brush, but I flash cured to make sure he was all covered, and then I full cured him. And then I do the same for the ring finger, going over everything with that liner brush. Once I cured it though, that's when I realized I had forgotten to paint on his rosy cheeks. So I'm back in now with the Mayo Mayo Peach number 7. It's just this gorgeous blush shade that has transparency to it, so it looks really nice, I think, for blush on the cheeks. That creates a natural ombre because of the sheerness. And because I don't know when to stop and I have a problem, I took a look at the middle finger and decided that the text didn't stick out enough after top coating. So I'm using the Madame Glam 3D embossing gel in white. I like this because it is non-wipe. I would have just used the Cocoas gel, but honestly, this one has more pigment. So in my opinion, it's better for doing like embossed patterns versus just charm adhesion and or chrome application. So for the 4th time, I painted over the Japanese lettering, although this time I at least had a guide underneath to follow. And I'm glad I did. I think it really helped those letters stick out more, and I liked the texture that it added. So I went ahead and did the same with the Sakura petals and even went in and added some more dots of white. Those probably weren't necessary, but I thought they would look like maybe falling petals and just add some variation to the design. And that is actually it for this look. I am super proud of how it turned out, so happy to get back into some character art. Thanks again to MPA for sending over the Mochi gels. I have planned a Pokemon set with them coming up soon. If you are not subscribed, please consider doing so if you want to see that set. I also do hauls and product reviews. All of my affiliate codes are linked down below if you'd like to pick up anything I mentioned in this video and support me at the same time. I know I mention it every video, but I also have a Discord server. I personally have been lacking on posting over there just because I've been so busy, but it's a great community. I have wonderful, wonderful members who help each other out when they have questions on product recommendations and give design feedback. So yeah, that link is down below along with those Canva templates that I was talking about earlier. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know what you think of the new style in the comments. It felt really good to get back to a design video for this project. While I do like doing the hauls, and it seems like everybody really likes when I do the hauls, I did ultimately start this channel to share my nail art, so my plan moving forward is to do at least 1, if not 2 design videos a month with some vlog content with some hauls sprinkled in there in between. Again, 2025 for me is just about growth and experimenting, so I really appreciate you being there with me along the journey. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time. Bye!